No problem. Should I put my CSDF t-shirt?
Do we send you one?
Yeah, I've got one.
Hell yeah. Maybe at some point. I forgot that we sent one out. Cool guys. Well, hey, Mike and Dan, we're here with Capital District Sport and Fitness. And part of our series we're calling Chatting with the Pros. But just during this time when we're all cooped up in our house, we wanted to take the time just to chat with some people we know in the community, and we know outside of the community, just to talk about what they're going through right now and a little bit about their athletic background and experience. So we're here with Jacinto Domingo, or Jack. Jack lives in Spain, is a pro field hockey player, and is now practicing medicine here. So Jack, you just want to introduce yourself a little bit, what you've been doing lately, and we'll get things rolling.
So my name is Jacinto, or Jack, as I go in the US. Right now, I'm a second-year resident in physical medicine and rehabilitation at a hospital in Zaragoza, Spain. And I used to play top-level field hockey, and I'm still playing, but now in a much humbler league. And yeah, I know you guys from my time as a coach in the US. And I'm glad to be here talking with you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for jumping on again, Jack. Yeah, guys. So Jack and I met, man, I don't know how many years ago. This is when we were living in Boston, going back to
2012, 13.
Yeah. So Jack would come with some other guys and coach field hockey camps. We're in Boston and Connecticut. Were you mostly around Massachusetts?
Yeah, I started out in Pennsylvania, and then I think on my second summer over there, I already went to Boston, and then kept going to Boston, Connecticut, and all the New England area.
And these were programs through, was it Nike? Who hired you to come over here to do work?
Yeah. Yeah, at first it was East Coast Field Hockey, which is a club in Pennsylvania. And then I started coaching for Nike and all for Nike camps.
Awesome. And yeah, that kind of leads us into the first topic we wanted to touch on today, which was one of the big differences that you've seen in terms of working with athletes in Europe and then coming over here and working with US young athletes from a development standpoint, or kind of the structure you see in place in terms of them advancing from like school to university play.
So when I coached here in Spain, I used to coach the school hockey, and it was mostly young guys, like 10 years old or so. And the idea is to get them playing, to get them attached to the sport, so they keep playing for the team eventually, because it's a progression. You start playing in the lower teams of your club, and then you keep playing until your 30s, mid-30s. And in the US, what I encountered was girls that were going to camps either to spend some time of their summer, but there were also players that took the game more seriously, which were investing their time to get better, to be able to perform better and get chosen for a university. So what I experienced is that I had players that were very committed to the game, that wanted to get better in the game, that they were investing a lot of time and effort and money to get better, to go higher in their game. But one thing that also surprised me is that in the US, after 4 years of college, your career it's over, but because there's nothing else afterwards. Like, the players there get very serious for a very brief period of time, and here is a more of a long-term thing. Like, you get attached to the sport and you play it because you love to play it, and then it's a part of your life. You don't let it go.
Right. Do you see one thing we see a lot, Dan, and I know you talk a lot with our athletes about this, it's just the pressures of the whole college recruiting process. And I mean, the pressures, Dan, felt from what age do you feel like when we see kids in the gym?
it seems like now parents are worried about, you know, what showcase they get to, what college coach see them by like 8th grade. It seems like kids are worried about this for far longer than they're even allowed to be spoken to by college coaches.
Yeah, Jack, is there an age or a grade in Spain where universities or in Europe in general you can start talking with athletes, or is that not even a thought with kids? You know, in
That's not a thing here because we don't have sports programs within the universities as you have. When I went to university, we had some like tournaments. Like there was a rugby team for each faculty. So med school will have a rugby and a soccer team and a volleyball team, but it's all friendly tournament. There's nothing close to what you have. And here you don't have that pressure, like, because we don't get granted to go to university if you're a good athlete.
Right.
Your sport and your academic career it's two different worlds, and it's very hard to mix them in one. But for you guys it's much more different, and I totally get the young athletes getting stressed and stressing over the fact that they might or might not get the grant that's going to get them through university. But here's a complete different thing.
Did you experience a lot when you were coaching in like Pennsylvania with Nike? Did you have a lot of experience with college coaches being at their matches or needing to talk to you so they could talk to a kid? Like, was that something you dealt with a lot, or?
Sorry, so coaches talking to?
Yeah, like when kids would go and play. I know we have a lot of girls who go to tournaments. They go to showcases or tournaments all the time. And college coaches are always, you know, they're trying to see who they're looking to recruit next. Did you have any experiences with any college coaches looking to talk to any of your players?
To talk to them?
Mm-hmm.
No. So I only went to one college camp, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there coaching. I was there because I was in this university for the time. And it's true that those coaches are looking at all of those girls. They can get 100 girls at camp easily, and those girls are the ones that are going to be more into the sport and into getting better. So the contact that I had with those girls at first, on my first years, we got a lot of players that you saw that their level was higher than the average. They weren't the average camper that was there to spend the summer, you know. And as I kept going to the US, the private camps stopped getting those players, those very good players, and the very good players were going to recruitment camps. So they went straight to where they wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first I felt like they were coming to our camps because the coaching was better. They wanted to get better coaching to get a better game. But in the end, they just went straight to the source. So those college coaches didn't even have to talk to us. Like they were already in the kids.
Yeah, it's kind of the nature of the beast. I mean, the business behind the recruiting process, which I'm sure is something you don't see over there, since there is no athletic money for university, where it's all academic based. Yeah, in terms of kids, okay, I'll just skip the scores. I'll skip even improving my skills, which is going to help me get to my team, and I'll just go straight to where these college coaches are here to watch me play. So yeah, it's definitely interesting in terms of growing up. For you, it's probably a never thought in your head. I just enjoy the game and play.
And here, at some point, you either get serious with your sport and try to play somewhere else or to change your team. But it's the recruitment process is not going to happen in the same way, and especially for field hockey, since we're such a minority sport. it's really hard to make a career out of it. So it's mostly taking your chances and taking advantage of the opportunities you might get along the way.
Definitely. And working in camps too and seeing athletes, what would you say are like the biggest, areas that a lot of these girls needed to, improve on, or things, that could help their game in terms of, getting to the next level of play?
Well, I think that girls here, I think it's better to start with the good things that I saw over here, which is they have a great disposition to learn, and they are highly motivated. But I feel like they lack some basic skills, and I think that's related to the surfaces they play in here. Because in Europe we start playing in Astro from a very young age. We don't play in turf, and the skills you can apply on turf and on AstroTurf are very different. The speed of the game is different. The skills you're going to put in place are different. And I've come across a lot of players, a lot of campers that wanted to learn skills that they had seen somewhere else, but they were very hard to learn on turf. And another thing I also encountered that was a big flaw of US players is the tactics, how they understand the game. The American player is a more offensive player. They get the ball and they want to get it as far up the field as possible in the quickest way possible. And I will always joke around with the player saying that field hockey is not American football. You don't have to get the ball as quick as possible to the person that's in front. And being able to work on that with them and being able to explain to them how changing the game from one side to the other or channeling or whatnot, I think it was the most rewarding thing, because once you got those ideas into your players, their game changed for the better. Like they were playing actual hockey with actual hockey tactics.
Right. Dan, anything else in the field hockey front you feel like you want to touch on, or even you too, Jack, just in terms of development and working with, with girls over here?
Yeah, Mike, you and we've been to a few field hockey matches since we've opened up. We've went and seen quite a few of our players play, and for me, I went and saw and watched when I was in college, but I guess it's more of a statement, and you might be able to expand on it, but it's way more exciting than I remember it being. Mike, I don't know if you agree with me. It's way more exciting than I remember. For you, I guess this is a very basic question, but I'm just curious. For you, what about field hockey, makes it, your sport? What do you love about field hockey?
Well, I think it's a very good question. And what makes it my sport is that it's very technical and it's very physical. And I think it combines very good that you need a lot of skill to perform techniques at a very high pace. And what you're saying, that you remember it to be less entertaining, I feel that way as well. Like I started playing on a sand-based field, and the rules have been changing since I started playing, and the rules that apply now to field hockey, they've changed a lot. And they've changed because it wasn't an entertaining sport to watch. When you watch the old videos from the Olympics, you see all those men and women playing on grass. It's a very slow surface. So it has evolved a lot, both in the technical aspects of the game, like they have improved the surfaces, they have improved the ruling to make it more appealing. Because if you have a sport that is not entertaining, you're never going to get all the investors behind you. You're not going to get people to go see you. So I absolutely agree with you years ago it was more boring to watch, and now it has evolved to a better sport globally, because of all of those rules that they have put in to make it more fast, to make it more engaging. Years ago you couldn't, like for example the self start. Years ago you couldn't self start with the ball,
Mhm.
and right now, since there's a foul, there's a foot, okay, you self start, and besides you get a 5 meter advantage to be able to play that ball. It's a whole lot of rules that are making it more engaging and more and faster, which is what people want, both
Mhm.
athletes and the public.
When you were playing at, on the professional level and a higher level, because I knew you were in school at the same time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
How was it balancing all that? Long days, challenging?
So yeah, my time in at pro level, it was very very challenging. But I've always felt that to balance my both my academic life and my sports life, I had to give something up. For example, on my first years in med school, I, instead of going somewhere else, instead of going to a university in Madrid or in Barcelona, where I could have played top level hockey, I stayed in my hometown in Zaragoza, and I kept playing for my club at a lower level. I think my team, it's equals to a D3 team here in Zaragoza. And since med school is it's time consuming, you have to invest a lot of hours. So I chose to play uh, for a lower division to be able to do both. And then when I went to France and I was playing top level hockey, it was a time in my degree in which I only had to go to the hospital for my internships. So it was like I was going there in the mornings, and then in the afternoons I was training, and then I had games on the weekends. So hockey got more serious, but my my academic life got a little bit easier. So that's why I got to balance both of of my passions. But now that I'm into residency, it's also very time consuming, and I've got 24-hour shifts. So it's very hard to balance. I'm missing trainings, but I'm playing for a team that doesn't demand as much.
Right.
If I was training the way I'm training now in France, I would not be playing because the coach wouldn't put me in. There's no way you can skip 2 training sessions in a week and then be able to play, or there's no way you're going out of a 24-hour shift, sleeping 2 or 3 hours, and then going to a game.
So where are you? I know we talked a little bit earlier. Where are you practicing medicine now? Where is your residency? What's that set up like?
So it's a hospital called Miguel Servet in Zaragoza. It's a town in between Madrid. It's a city in between Madrid and Barcelona. And well, as we talked before, it's a very big hospital, and I'm on the second year of the residency in physical medicine and rehabilitation.
And how has our current state? I mean, you said there are COVID patients in your hospital, but not on your floor right now.
Yeah, that's it. So our hospital is like 3 big compounds. We've got pediatrics, we've got the general hospital, and then we have the surgical, which has all of the surgical specialties, and we are on the bottom floor of that one. So far, our compound it remains clean of of COVID patients,
Mm-hmm.
and the general hospital is the one that's having all of the new positives come in and treat them.
So you haven't directly worked with COVID patients, and it has.
I've I've only treated patients in the emergency room,
Mhm.
but since my specialty only does on-call shifts on the trauma emergency, uh, the only patients we get to see with that are COVID positive is, for example, maybe an old lady comes in with a hip fracture, well, now we have to be more wary of her symptoms in case she is a potential COVID-19 positive.
Right.
And if she is, we transfer her to another part of the emergency room, and we still treat her for her hip fracture, but she's going to enter a completely different system, and we are out of that. So we have to use protection to treat these patients, but we're not directly engaging with the treatment of the disease, of the virus.
Yep. Do you see your number of cases down though, because you guys have been on lockdown? There's less car accidents, less trauma, less.
I think it has had a huge impact. Like when the president announced the measure, it was a huge shock. I personally wasn't 100% sure that people were going to comply with it.
Mhm.
And in the first days, we kept seeing people running and people not complying with the order. But as we kept hearing from the news that there were a lot of cases, I think that people start gaining a conscience about it. And so far, like, the situation is much better at the hospital. We haven't had to use the field hospitals that were ready to take a huge amount of patients. We haven't had to use more than one compound in our hospital. So we're dealing with the pandemic. Like, we kept getting cases every day, and most of the patients that go to the hospital are COVID patients with respiratory uh, diseases and problems. But we are being able to cope with it, which is the good news.
Yeah, it's like I feel like we're going through those stages now. I mean, we look to like you guys into Italy, you kind of hit the lockdown before we did. But it is like this gradual onset of people not taking it so serious, still being outside running and in the park, to all of a sudden, okay, maybe we need to take the social distancing a little bit more serious.
Yeah, because I think it does have an impact, and it's not that much. Like, once you get used to it, yeah, days are much boring now, but even if you go out, you're not going to be able to interact. Here, all bars are closed, all cinemas or theaters are closed, so there's not much you can do. Yeah, I miss running in the park, but it's a small sacrifice to a bigger end. So yeah, I think that you guys like really need to take this seriously, because besides, your medical system is much more different to ours, and it's a challenge for us all. It's been a challenge in Italy, it's been a challenge here, and it's going to be a challenge everywhere. So I think we have to act as a global movement to put a stop to this.
Yeah, that's true. It is, at least in America, and I'm sure there to a degree, it's, this degree of selfishness and putting yourself first. And that's like the complete, opposite of what we need to be doing now.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah, Jack. Hey, I'll tell a story sometimes too. Dan's probably heard me tell this in the gym, and maybe not even known it's related. But I'll go, somebody deadlifts 500 pounds. That's impressive. I go, but the most impressive thing I've ever seen was at a bar once with you, Jack. And I think we were with Sebi.
Oh, you told me this story before, yeah.
And we were with maybe Chris, I think.
It was in Chatham.
Chatham, beautiful Chatham. And you're speaking English to Sam and I, and then you're ripping out Spanish to Sebi, and I think French with Chris. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. How has being, I know it's way more the norm over there in Spain and Europe, but being multilingual helped you with your career or even athletics in terms of just getting out there and doing more?
Well, I think that both in athletics and in my career, what being multilingual has allowed me to do is to exchange more. And both in sports and in medicine, if you are able to get the views and the knowledge from other people, you're going to get better. Like, and the way you do in one place is going to be different than the way you do where you're from. So being able to get to know how the French people train, how the French people work at the hospital, or how the US people train and how they work at the hospital is always going to have a benefit. So being multilingual is great, but you have to have the disposition to learn from other people. Like whenever you get the chance, you start talking to someone about a shared passion, and then it's just I think that's a wonderful thing. Like it has only brought good things to me, being able to share with people that are not from where I'm from.
Yeah, no, I was very impressed by it. And I think it's one thing, wrapping back for high school kids, that none of them take serious in terms of, developing that skill set or that ability.
Yeah, I mean, I went to when I was a junior in high school, I went to Spain and went to classes for 2 weeks while I was over there, and just that experience alone, I mean, I'm not by any means fluent in Spanish, but I retained so much more of that just by being immersed in that setting, just going out and talking to people that speak another language is just so beneficial to, not only into learning the language, but to really understand, appreciate, the different cultures and what each, group of people can, bring to the table.
Definitely. No, Jack, thanks for hopping on, man. We really appreciate it. And I think some of the discussion just about development, that you've seen with athletics in Spain versus being here, coaching and working in both, and just kind of your current situation in terms of still going to work in the hospital and kind of hearing where you guys are at in terms of moving along getting through this pandemic, has been helpful. So we appreciate it. Dan, anything you feel like we want to kind of touch on and chat about, or you too, Jack?
What, sorry?
Is there anything else you feel like we want to touch on or chat about? I feel like we've covered a lot.
I think we cover everything.
I think we did great. Hey, when this all gets done with, how do you feel like things will change in terms of your work? You think it's going to jump right back to normal? You think there's going to be some differences?
I think that there's going to be differences. Like, so our system is a public system. So whenever you feel the need, you can just go to the ER and have a doctor see you. And the first change that we saw when COVID first outbreak, it was that a lot of the patients we were seeing in the ER that were not emergency patients, like people go there with a knee pain that's been there for months without any trauma, just for a checkup.
Right.
And I think that's really a waste of money on that patient, because when I see a patient in the ER, that costs the government like 150 something euros. And if that patient goes to her or his general practitioner, that consultation is just like 20 to 30 euros. So it's I think people are going to use the system better, and that we are all going to gain that conscience that we were talking about before. Like, people are going to be more aware of their acts, like, because it's if we are not being what's the word, like, if we're not behaving, like the three of us, if we are going out running and not caring about if we get it or not, because if we get it, we're going to be fine. We'll just have flu-like symptoms for 2 weeks and then we'll be done with it. Yeah, but if I get it and then I interact with some other people that are older or that are not going to be able to fight as well as I'm going to be able to fight it, well, it's my responsibility as well. And just because you're not seeing the outcome of your neglects as a citizen, it doesn't mean that they're not there. So I think that people is going to think deeper over that, like think deeper over us as a society, as a whole thing.
Yeah, I think it pulled this thing. It's like an equalizer. I mean, everybody is the same. It can all be affected, and yeah, back that degree of selfishness that we either innately have, we all have to some degree. So no, that's very true. No, awesome, guys. Jack, thanks for hopping on. Guys, if anybody else has questions or comments for questions for Jack, just drop them in the comments below where this thing's posted, and we'll get them to him and get them answered. So, Jack, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Be safe, no problem, and we'll chat soon. Thank you.
Okay, stay safe.
Thanks. You